Hello there, Force of Will players, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the two events that occurred on, I believe, back-to-back weekends, if I remember correctly. There was a Spring Fest-like type event in Italy, and then there was a Discord Wander box event run by Ruler School the following week. We'll be taking a look at them in order because that is something that is like good to note, right? That one occurred before the other. It might have had an impact or an effect on what was brought to the next. So going right on into it, we are using Foul Library. They have two articles for both, one for the No Name Series Spring Festival, and as well as the Ruler School Wanderer Discord case split. There is also an article that was recently written by Min Ha, who got first place in the Discord event with Zeus, and I believe it was going over his Zeus list. So if you're interested in any of those, they are on foullibrary.com, and they're like the first articles on the front of the page, so feel free to go check them out there. But anyway, so starting off with the Italian event, I believe there were 15 people at the Italian event. I think both of the events were around the same amount of people. It was somewhere in like the 16-ish player range, something like that. Or like 12 to 16, like somewhere in there, like low to mid-teens. So first place was an Asmodeus Belial list. And it's an interesting list because what it is, it's the whole thing it's trying to do is hit Union 7 with the new 12 Olympians. If you're unaware of what Union 7 is, we can just look at Apollon. It should pull them up right here. I don't know how well you can read that, but Union 7 on the new 12 Olympians is when you have 7 different names of whatever the race is. So in this case, new 12 Olympians. The only other one we have for Union 7 is Machine. So for Union 7 new 12 Olympian gods, you have 7 unique named of those race of cards in all public zones, as well as under your control. So that includes, or revealed from outside of the game. So anything in the field, anything in the grave, anything in the RFG, anything revealed from outside the game. So your sideboard, your ruler zone, technically your order zone, other things like that. So all public zones count. And so what the Asmodeus version of the deck is trying to do is Asmodeus's God's Art removes the top 7 cards of your deck from the game, and then you get +1/+1 counters for each card removed. But if you hit 7 different named new 12 Olympians off the top of your deck, you hit Union 7 immediately. And all of the Union 7 effects of the new 12 Olympian gods are very, very powerful. Most of them are game-winning type effects, like they'll just straight up win you the game off the spot, or on the spot. And so that is something to keep in mind. So like Apollon, for example, his gives himself Flying, Eternal, and Barrier, but he buffs your whole board by +10/+10. So he makes everything super big. Hestia gives everything swiftness, as well as on enter it deals 1,000 to your opponent and their whole board. Poseidon allows you to draw your whole deck. Poseidon is a self-contained infinite at Union 7 because he can bounce himself with his own return effect. So you can bounce him with his return and then draw 3 and put him back into play with his Union 7 effect and then draw your whole deck. Artemis becomes mana ramp at Union 7. You recover 2 stones when you play Artemis, and she would only cost 1 at Union 7. Hades destroys all stones and causes the rulers your opponent controls to lose all abilities. So in the case of Order, they would lose Force Resonance. They would lose the ability to Order. In the case of like Belial or something like that, they would lose all the God's Arts, things like that. Hades causes. Aphrodite just causes you to gain twice as much life and draw twice as many cards when you would gain life or draw cards. Ares. Ares is when a spell is... a spell or ability is canceled by a spell or ability you control. You recover 2 stones, so he's like a form of mana ramp. I think he also kills the thing that he like hits. It's kind of hard to read this text even on here because there's just so much. I cannot read Athena's text, so it's off the top of my head. But Athena gains swiftness, and then also deals damage equal to like her attack when she attacks, I believe. And then her like Union 7 effect is if she would deal damage, you deal that much plus 1,000 instead. And then when she enters, you also deal like 600 to a target. So it'd be like you enter, you hit something for 1,600, you like swing and hit like the whole board and your opponent's face for 1,900, and then you probably hit your opponent in the face too for another 1,900. So that's Athena's. Hera's is your opponent can only play one card per turn. It's just like a floodgate, and then it also gives her a ping effect as well as Bane, so she can just kill stuff. Magna and Lenneth cause your opponent to you take the attack of all new 12 Olympians you control and deal damage equal to your opponent, equal to whatever that is. And then Persephone's isn't like a game-winning effect. It just allows you to... It's like a buff effect and stuff like that, so it's less important. But, so, those are all the new 12 Olympians. Those are what they do. There is also the addition, but it doesn't do anything outside of Zeus, so we won't really talk about it. You do also have the Cradles in here. The Cradles are an interesting, like, addition. Get it? They're an interesting part of the deck because it allows you to make use of Asmodeus's front side, which removes 2 by sacking off a entity you control, a non-J ruler entity, and then you can like get their effects. So you can get Cradle of Silent Earth, you get free Will, so on and so forth. You basically bank it. And then Gatekeeper of Velsivaria, I think we've seen it in some Zeus lists. Very good card as well. Allows you to remove your whole hand from the game and then draw the amount of cards you removed. So you can remove 3, 4 different named new 12 Olympians from your hand, and then draw a new set of cards, so on and so forth. Attendant of Asmodeus removes 5 cards from the top of your deck in order to recover stones, so it's a form of mana ramp. It's also good to remove the Typhon edition, the Zeus edition, basically all the arena expansions and editions that have Eternal. So very interesting deck list, got first place at the event. I don't think it plays very well into Zeus. I think Zeus just has too much counterplay, but it did beat a Zeus player, so I might just not know the matchup. And then we have Origin as well. Origin of the Seven Lands, Drywing, all that good stuff. Second place and third place for this event were both Zeus. Zeus is singleton. There are a few things that I actually took away from this Zeus list that I wasn't particularly... I wasn't using in my own. And there are some things that I don't really like about the Zeus list. One, I think Gleipnir is very interesting. One... there are a couple things with Gleipnir. I both like it and I don't like it. One, I like that it gives all of your like essences effectively like the chance to just draw cards while you're flipping back and forth over and over again. But part of the issue is you're flipping back and forth over and over again, so I don't know how many cards Gleipnir nets you in the grand scheme of things. I'm not a fan of Typhonomachy. The reason I don't like Typhonomachy in Zeus is the way I would play Zeus is more like a quasi-control shell, where you eventually hit Union 7, and that just carries you. Also, you just have all the new 12 Olympian gods like enter effects, which, because the reveals, which are all are fairly impactful just on their own. So that is something that would be interesting to potentially look at. But so Typhonomachy is more of like a combo card, and the reason I don't like it is you never play Typhonomachy if you're ever behind, because your opponent probably has, in most cases, a better grave than you if they're behind, which means you would have to remove their grave somehow, which you have in the form of Essence of Athena's power, but they can always just put their grave back, because if it's like a mirror match, right? And there are other decks that could potentially do that. The other thing with Typhonomachy is if you're ahead, like you're already ahead in the game, like it's not really going to do anything for you. Sure, it might put you more ahead, but that's just win more. If you've ever heard that terminology before, it means it's just win more. So I'm personally not a big fan of Typhonomachy. I don't know how well it did for these players, if it was the reason they won games or anything like that, but I am not a big fan of cards like that. Typically, if you wanted to make something like that, you would make it, you would just build your entire deck around it. So it would be something like you're playing Harvesting Season and you're just loading your grave with a shit ton of cards just like as soon as humanly possible in order to play something like Typhonomachy. But Zeus doesn't really do that, and so I'm not a big fan of it. Oboe, I do actually like the inclusion of Oborozuki. The thing with Oboe is it can give you 2 names for new 12 Olympian gods, and Zeus has a way of recycling them, so even if it's one of the names you need, and for whatever reason you picked another card to add to your hand, you can always just recycle it later. All of the rest of this I've used or was planning on using in my Zeus list. Phantasmal Ascendant is very interesting because it is a form of ramp, and with Zeus's stone, it's very, very powerful. Because Zeus's stone allows you to tap for more will for new 12 Olympian gods, so you can do weird stuff with Artemis and Phantasmal Ascendant if you draw both. and then it also can kill itself with whatever stone you get, so it can always do the flip back and forth or whatever. Their sideboard is a little bit interesting for me. Deck restrictions for the main deck don't extend to the sideboard. I mean, we've had confirmation on that multiple times because we had questions about it with stuff like Ragnarok and Ayu. So I don't know why it would be working different for Zeus unless they decided to change their mind. So you don't have to only play one of copies of cards in your sideboard as well, even though you're under that deck restriction. So you can play 4 Drywing if you wanted to. The other thing with that is because they don't extend to the sideboard, you can play more copies of the new 12 Olympians in your board as well. So if you were like you could add Magna and Lenneth back to the main board and then also play one in the sideboard, if that makes sense. Or like you could play an Artemis in the sideboard and an Artemis in the main. So for stuff with like Origin and things like that, I would probably want to do the copies of the cards I don't want to see the most. So things like Hera or maybe Aphrodite. That still would also produce Light Will, which is the most common will that Zeus wants to use. And probably focus more on like a sideboard like that. But that is besides the point. Otherwise, pretty standard stuff. I don't know what all they brought in or took out or anything like that, but it is it's an interesting list. Adding the Typhon stuff like the Kronos children and things like that. I didn't realize that would send me to a different page. But like the Children of Kronos is an interesting sideboard deck just as like a discard outlet because it does give you the machine on reveal in order to sack off. But yeah, so that is the second place Zeus list. This is the third place Zeus list. March of the Dead is also a very good card to potentially add. It gets you all of the new 12 Olympians except like Hades, right? Like Hades and Athena, I think are the only two that it wouldn't get. So just very, very good card. I like it a lot. Other than that, nothing like too crazy. Witch of Unblowing Wind is pretty good against I think it's Drywing specifically, because I don't think you can recover stuff, right? Cannot be recovered by spells or abilities, yeah, so it's pretty good against Drywing. Again, the Typhonomachy, not a big fan of, but we've already gone over that. I think they're playing more removal type essences. Yeah, they're playing 4 essences, and they're playing 6. I'm not a big fan of the Shiva essence, one, because you're never playing it on 1. Sure, it's removal, but it requires your opponent to have something and you to have something. So I'd rather just play the other ones on 1. The reason I would play Essence of Deus Ex Machina's power is because it allows you to bounce Witch of the Fallen Kingdom. This would be the only one that requires a target that I think I would play, but the rest of them I wouldn't. So I'm not a big fan of Essence of Shiva's power, but it might have done well for them. And then we have the interesting thing. It's like 4 of the exact same Shiva list. I think they're pretty much like all the exact same for the most part, so I'm really only going to talk about one of them. So I did a Shiva list where it was like a very heavy tempo, you're really only playing around Shaka, and then winning off of that. They're using Awakening of Gruz Ballista to win the game, and then using like Setting the Stage of Providence, Dance of Spirits, things like that to prevent your opponent from playing or interacting with your stuff, and then making a whole bunch of different stones, punching your opponent, and winning the game like that. And then outside of that, they're just playing a bunch of good like control tools, right? So like Rig Veda, it's the best control tool in the game right now for like its cost, right? But the stipulation is you have to play Shiva. So Rig Veda is like the best counter spell. So it's also a very good destruction tool and other things like that. Origin causes them to mana ramp and other things like that. They have multiple arena expansions, so they can get multiple hits in. So it's and they can reveal Arena Expansion Mimi Tribe Festival off of Origin, which is another thing they can do. So they can reveal one for free at the start of the game, and then reveal one off of Origin, and then play both if they ever activate like an Awakening of Gruz Ballista with 3 stones out. And then that kind of that goes infinite, or like even more infinite, or than it normally would. Witch of Unblowing Wind is very good against this deck. It just kind of hard counters it because they can't recover their stones. but yeah, it was a very interesting take to see show up. I'm not a huge fan of the Typhon stuff necessarily, like the Zwei Hunter and the Children of Kronos in this one. The main reason is I don't know why I would not reveal Drywing unless my opponent was stopping it somehow with either Witch of Unblowing Wind or like their own Drywing, I guess, or like other things like that. So, but you have the decay of the machines themselves. So I'm not a huge fan of the Mechanized Children, but maybe it was okay. Maybe they wanted the darkness filter off of the Origin. That's a pretty decent reason. I can get around that. And then Trishula is like a form of mana ramp. Also gives your stones Pierce and Eternal, but they already have Eternal from Awakening, so that's fine. And then Spirit of Knowledge allows you to search for Awakening of Gruz Ballista or Garyon if you want it. And Dance of Spirits, actually. Oh, no, that's only 4. Never mind. Actually, wait, this only searches 4 more. Oh yeah, that can also search Dance of Spirits. So it can search a lot of good tools for the deck. It can also search Origin. So it's a very interesting like combo deck. I enjoy this as a form of combo deck because you're probably playing until like turn 3 or 4 before you get the combo off. And then 5th, 6th, and 7th are like all the same. Some people played Decay in the main, some other tech stuff like Conclave and other things, but they're very similar. And then 8th place we have a Typhon list. It's kind of hard to determine a like set for a Typhon list because a lot of them are going to be pretty cookie cutter. Like 20 Typhon's Bloods, 15 to 20 antibodies, 4 Echidnas, and then kind of 4 Witch of the Fallen Kingdom, and then you kind of fill. So I'm interested. The 3 Typhon cells in the main is interesting as opposed to like 2 or 3 in the board in order to get more draw value off of Echidna. Maybe they felt their draw value was fine. Magic Rebound is a good one for it's like a form of interaction, right? Because the only other real counter type interaction that you could have would be Garyon, but they're opting to not play it. They do have Drywing. They're not playing Origin, which seems kind of like a mistake. Maybe they just didn't have access to it or anything like that, but I would probably play Origin in this deck because like you want to reveal anyway, so like why not? And I don't think anything for Typhon specifically states it has to be revealed off his ability or like one of their abilities. It's just when it's revealed from outside the game. So Origin just gives you a free reveal each turn, even if you're not ramping off of Drywing. So yeah, I would 100% play for Origin here. And then they have Final Battles, right? Look of Corruption, Phantasmal Scarlet, all the good stuff we've seen. They're not playing. Oh no, Black Moonray. There it is. There's Black Moonray, but they're not playing Beam. So they just opted to not have more J Ruler Destruction, which is fine. And then Moonshades. Only 3 Moonshades, 4 Infinities, 2 Dark Depths, and 4 Autoroctia's Memoria. It's an interesting stone lineup. There's 13 stones. I guess you're 5 color with Autoroctias for Typhon, but you don't really need to be 5 color. Like they're not playing, like these are darkness, right, in the board. So is this. So like all this is darkness. So the only thing they're playing is this off of blue. That means they don't have the moon for Moonshade. So they just want darkness all the time. I don't know why you would go to 13 stones. I don't know, whatever. But I would probably just play 10 stones. You'd rather have more Magic Stone of Infinities to get more Darkness Will. But that's just me. But anyway, that is the top 8 for that event. And then we have the top 8 for the Discord event. The Case Split event. So Mr. Min also playing Typhonomachy. Again, I'm just not a fan of it personally. Same thing, I've kind of talked about that. I'm not a big fan of Essence of Kage's power either. I had it in originally. I think it's one of the better ones, but the issue is you have to pay 2 to play it, and I found that when I was playing Zeus, the only things I ever wanted to pay 2 for were the Olympians with a Zeus stone, which means I was only tapping 1 stone. So, I don't know, that's on me, I guess. Another thing Min did, he has a Persephone in the board, so I guess he knew about the Persephone thing, but he only has 1 Drywing. So I don't know why, but maybe he just didn't want to play 4. I don't know. Shackles is good against, like, Shackles is an interesting tech if you're expecting, like, the Asmo Belial lists, right? It's just something that you can play early. Asmo will still probably get off. The thing that Min had that I really liked, I actually really liked the Gil inclusion. I don't know if the No Name series decks had it, but the Gil inclusion in the deck is actually really interesting because it allows you to mill 4. So it mills 4 and you get a Resonator from your grave to your hand. So you can get any new 12 Olympian you might need, or just any other resonator that you might want. But it also the mill 4 will help you with the attributes, so like wind, light, darkness of Zeus, as well as hitting new 12 Olympians more consistently. Priscia is also a decent card. I don't know how. I was supposed to play in this event. I had signed up for it, but then I overslept through my alarm, so I didn't play. I'm unsure of how often you have the free will to just kind of play Priscia stuff. Maybe in the mirror match it comes up a little bit more. I use Sword Strike as a very good card to include. I actually completely forgot about that card, but Min is like Singleton King. He knows all of the good Singleton cards. So good on him for remembering that. There are some Singleton like Annie cards, like all the Celesta cards for like Ragnarok, which people could start sideboarding if they needed to or wanted to. I'm actually unsure of how good those would be in the mirror, though, or like against Zeus. Attendant, good. Wall is pretty good as well. Just other like good stuff. I'm not sure how I feel about Magna's Guardian Beast. I guess it gets Hestia Poseidon, so it gets you 2 names. Or it can get you 2 names. Otherwise, it works as like quasi-ramp or something. But I don't know. You're not really cheating this in ever. Maybe off of Persea. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Magna's Guardian Beast, but maybe it worked out for him. And then he just kind of has like a huge sideboard like reveal slot. So he has like the Terminator drone, he has the Chronos Children, he has Fenrir, he has Mechanization, he has Einsberg. Just interesting stuff to play around with. Second place was also Zeus, also was playing the Gil. Very good. He has the one Alice in the main. I would actually sideboard the Alice to reveal off of... Actually, does this say all zones? Hang on. This card gains all races and all zones. Never mind. So Alice counts as a new 12 Olympian because she gains all races and all zones. So like if you discard her or anything to like Dark Alice or anything like that, she works there. Which I think she becomes a lot better with Gil and like Fire of Zeus and other things like that. So I like the Alice inclusion. In the main, she doesn't count as a new 12 Olympian in the sideboard. Also has the arena. So they were doing this with the arena expansion in the board, because it counts as 5 color for Origin, so you can get whatever you need. And the thing with the arena, a lot of the time you don't actually get the arena early. Sometimes you can, depending on the matchup and like what your opponent does, but a lot of the times you have to save your flips or Zeus enters the Game of Gods for like other stuff. Like you just need other forms of interaction you can't really set up. So having it in the board is actually pretty decent. I don't hate that. Though I would probably have added other new 12 Olympians if you're already going that like direction to do that. The sideboards are interesting. I don't know. I feel like I'd rather play like a Decay of the Machines or something. Some other like tech stuff. Evil Elemental Uprising for certain decks, maybe. But yeah, decent. I am a fan of most of this. Cassius is interesting. Odin Enters the Game of Gods is interesting because it's basically Oboe but on a chant and a quick cast speed and in light, which is a better color for you. So that's neat. The Typhon. I also don't know any of these people's names because they're all their Discord names. 31 Typhon's Bloods, 27 Typhon's Antibodies, 58 cards were those 2 cards. And then just Phantasmal Scarlet, Final Battle, Dante Enters the Game of Gods, good draw card, Assault from the Demonic World, good Darkness Removal Tool, Phantasmal Scarlet, Final Battle, and Decay. Lucifers are an easy way to flip back. Dark Mage of Mott is an easy way to flip back. Echidna is an easy way to flip back. Dark Alice is an easy way to flip back. Dark Alice can kill herself with the Regalia she creates, which is why she's an easy way to flip back. So all of these are just... and Dark Alice allows you to get like a 2 discard rip out of your opponent's hand. Lucifer gives you a free proc, a discard, and a kill. Echidna gets you 2 reveals, and the 3rd off the thing. And then Dark Mage of Ma'at gets you a double banish and then a reveal, and it kills itself. So I like all those. Sideboard seems normal. I don't know if I'd actually play 4 Typhon cells in the board. I think that's unnecessary. I think 1 in the main is okay, and then you'd put 3 in the side, personally. Heart, I would always play at least 2 of. I don't think there's ever a game I want to play more than that. Part of the reason, or I don't think there's a game I'd want to play more, but I don't think I'd ever want to play less. Part of the reasoning for it is if you only have one, in order to deal with its like you lose the game effect, you either have to A, Phantasmal Scarlet it yourself, or B, Decay of the Machines it yourself. And like that's fine. Like if you have one of those options, like sure, that's fine. It's fine to just have one. But in a lot of cases, or in some cases, you just might not have the access to those, or you need them for something else. In which case, the heart's going to come into play, and you just can't deal with it until you draw one of those options. Magic Stone deck was not 13; it was only 10. But at least according to these numbers I'm seeing. But 4-4-2, this looks more normal to me. This is what I would probably play, and then the 4 Origin as well. Yeah, pretty what I would think like standard Typhon list. I don't like that amount of antibodies, but that's just me. Fourth place was the Asmo Belial New 12 Olympian kind of list. So yeah, just another version of it. Fifth was Alice. So Alice lost. So you can't play Excalibur in Alice anymore, and you can't play Tales of Fantasia in Alice. So there's no more Tales of Fantasia. It's kind of like all in on IU type deal, but they did get Regalia Beast, which is kind of like a Manador type deal. Or the interesting thing about Regalia Beast in Alice specifically is because of all the other different effects that Alice has, like for example Charlotte's, which requires Water Regalia, or other things like that, you can have Regalia Beast count as those. So like if you call Water on Regalia Beast, right, in order to like become Water, now it can also tap to draw a card if you have Charlotte. Or IU allows it to tap for any color will as opposed to just light if it's a light Regalia, things like that. So it's an interesting option. Alice enters the Game of Gods, Flashing Smile. The Shiva enters the Game of Gods is interesting. I guess they found they could get pretty large with like Fairy and other stuff like that fairly quickly. So I like that. Excuse me. Sorry, I just got off of work. It was a busy day, so I'm a little tired. But the rest of this seems pretty standard. 4 Rulers Memoria, 4 Moonshade, 2 Autorocktia, yeah. Dante Belial, interesting. Playing like a Ultra Magic Stone Golem Stone lineup. I'm curious why this Stone lineup. Unless it's... He might just not have the stones. I remember we talked the last time he played in an event, there were some cards he just didn't have, so maybe he just was weird on stones. Dance of Spirits, stuff like that. This just looks like Inferno combo with Final Battles and Secret Duels. Yeah, Secret Duel, Final Battle. Yeah, it's just Inferno combo. So it's Inferno combo Dante Belial. Pretty standard list. Origins with Dry Wings or things like that. So, deck's still around. 7th place was an Athenia deck. Athenia enters the Game of Gods, Elixirs Love, Death Scythe. They have the infinite. Ominous Moon is interesting, actually. Because you have to remove 2+1/+1 counters to destroy a J Resonator. But this card's unchaseable, and Oboe gives you 2+1/+1 counters, the new one. And this card's older, so it actually synergizes really well between the two. Tree of Growth also allows you to just get free counters in order to use Ominous Moon. So it's just it's a pretty good like removal tool, in my opinion. Couple Feastings. Yeah, the list looks pretty standard for the most part, for a lot of it. And then 8th place is another Zeus list. I'm not a big fan of Dante Enters the Game of Gods. It doesn't require a target, I'm pretty sure. It just, your opponent with the highest attack, yeah. So your opponent just gets rid of whatever Resonator they want. But I'm not like a super big fan of it. 1, because it costs 2 mana. That's like my main thing. Yeah, this person is playing 2 Drywing, so they knew about that. They don't have any new 12 Olympians in the board, though, so they might have not known about the other rule. There's the Gil. I enjoy the Gil and the Oboe. What does Alice's Whole Guardian do? All damage that would be dealt by target Resonator. This card's okay, because I guess you can target your opponent's stuff. It can't target itself to banish if you're trying to banish it off of like Zeus to get the order flipped back, because it's not a Resonator anymore. It's a J Ruler, so it can't target itself. but it can target like other stuff. So unless he was using that, or they, I don't know if they were he, if they were using that to like target like Athena's, like using it to like counter Athena's pretty good. Um, Conclave, Conclave kind of serves the same function as like Onan enters the game of gods and Oboe, so I don't hate it. Um, I don't think you play it early in the game though, and it doesn't have quick cast, so you can kind of hard to find time frames to play it, but it can be pretty decent. Um, Summon from Memoria is kind of just like a filter. Cassius, same kind of deal. Horn, and then again Typhonomaki we've talked about, so on and so forth. But yeah, um, interesting to have one Thunder of Zeus. I wonder what they ever brought that in against. I don't think you like almost ever resolve this card. I just think you're never. If you're in a position to resolve Thunder of Zeus, you're probably winning the game. And I wouldn't want it if I was losing the game. So, but yeah. So those are the lists. So what we've seen is we've seen a pretty good showing for Zeus specifically within the within these two events. Asmo Belial is decent with just the new 12 Olympian ramp stuff. We've seen Typhon make a decent showing, and then we saw a bunch of Shiva in the Italian event, and then none of it in this event. The Discord case event was international, so we didn't have a bunch of people playing that. Other decks that have now cropped up, right? We have one Athena, so Athena did alright, and then we had a Dante Belial, and then the Alice list as well. So we've seen some decks from the previous format still show up, Alice, so on and so forth. We haven't seen any Mylest. Right? No Mylest Almerius, I think is the only combination left, or Mylest Zero maybe. But so we haven't seen any of that. And a significant fall off in all the decks that got like banned, etc., etc. There weren't any machine lists, which I'm kind of surprised about. I figured one person at least would have wanted to play machines. Maybe they did, maybe they just didn't do too well, who knows. But I mean, out of the gate, Zeus is very clearly a front runner for best deck in format. Asmo Belial, New 12 Olympians is kind of up there as well. Typhon did okay, but never went past like top 4. So it's, and then Shiva had a pretty decent showing at the Italian event. So it's interesting to see how the meta kind of developed for these like smaller sort of events. The first American event, GP, for this format is in like a month, almost exactly. So it'll be interesting to see all the results from there, as well as any potential EU events or things that might be happening that I'm unaware of in the near future. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I don't think I'm going to do a tier list or anything, like an updated tier list, until we actually get GPs rolling. There's just no real need to. These events are so small, and you can kind of just take a brief look at what's kind of showing up and stuff like that. Next week, there will be a Wander Wednesday as always. I'm unsure if I'm going to do anything on Tuesday or Thursday or just another day. Everything's kind of been pushed back a little bit due to my work, and stuff has been like catching up, and I've just been busy. So I might just take a week off of extra content and then come back the following week with some extra stuff. But anyway, thank you all so much again. Have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.